Rotation 411 Astrology subscribers. So I'm trying this flipped sideways today. I don't know how it's going to work in reality, but it gave me the option to do it, you know, sideways. It's horizontal. No, not portrait orientation. The opposite of that. So I just want to get on here and finish up. We were talking about Mars through the houses last week, and I haven't been on here. I've had a bunch of meetings with divinetimingdatabase.org's team, and there's a lot going on over there. I now have my affiliate code is rotation 411, so you get 10% off when you sign up for the database for a membership with my code. So check that out. You can get there quicker by going to moonmatch.love, but it's the Astrology Dating App if you want to meet someone that you're astrologically compatible with. Now I feel like I need to put hand lotion on, you guys. See, I had this all packed up and you guys could see little glimpses of it, so I cleaned this area up. So I'm not sure how that looks. I got some astrology books, some tarot decks, the Lover's Oracle. I have like a necklace hanger, a couple jewelry boxes back there. No one's in here yet, so I think I'm just gonna go run and put a little hand lotion on because my hands feel dry. 1 second. Okay, much better. All right, this is a cool thing. I can't remember. I think this is from like Bali or something. My mother gave this to me. It's from someone she works with. They make these. So, and I have a bunch of like mother of pearl, like black, or is it like little candle holders that I got, and dishes. Like, I forget what kind of shells they are. This is tasty too. Okay, so no one's in here. So let's just, I mean, sometimes you guys are in here and it doesn't tell me, but one thing I do have to say really quick before we start is if I get a phone call, even if I like decline it and kick it out because I'm streaming on the phone, I need to get it set back up on the computer. Then we can do screen sharing and stuff. It will mute the video. So let me know if that happens. I told my boyfriend not to call me right now. He's picking up the kids for the weekend. I'm like, don't call me because it mutes my videos. So, so what did he do? He called me immediately. What? Well, you said give you a call? No. That's why I was a few minutes late. Okay, so we were talking about like Mars in the 6th house overlay in synastry. I really like that because, and I'll put the part 1 link in the description and I'll pin it in the comments below, but I really actually like it, even though the 6th house isn't particularly a romantic house, because it really drives, whether it's somebody's Mars in your 6th house or your Mars in their 6th house, if you're a couple, and this can also be for like, I mean, this one could also work well for like a working relationship, right? 6th house is Virgo of work. So not just romantic, but also in romantic relationships, I like it, even though it's not a romantic placement. Because for one, Mars, yes, he's phallic, so he does have a lot to do with romance, right? Like Venus and Mars are the eternal lovers. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But Mars is still a very masculine energy. So when we're looking like Venus in the 6th house might, I mean, I have that in the 6th house, and my work is relationships, which Venus rules, right? Relationship coach, basically, in a nutshell. But it's not the most romantic for a couple, but in Mars in the 6th house, whether you're romantic or not, it's really going to drive you to get things done. And I like that. I don't know, maybe because I'm an Aries and I'm Mars ruled, I like getting things done. So you're definitely going to have that sort. And then also my Mars is in Gemini, which is, I think I mentioned this in part 1, but it's a mercurial energy, which is 6th house energy. So I personally really like this one. You know, it's really good for checking things off your to-do list, going out, it's like someone you would like running errands with, going shopping with. You're going to have a good time if their Mars is in your 6th house, or at the very least, even if it's a bit aggressive and fiery, if there's like, you know, hard Mars aspects, you're still going to get a lot accomplished. Now, you have to be careful that you're not just running around or you know, doing things in an unproductive manner. You might be, you know, there could be a trap there depending on the aspects as well. And also the depositors, which would be like the rulers of the signs, which is what I'm talking about with like Venus and Libra and Gemini and Mercury and all of that. But 7th house is house of partnership. So Mars in the 7th house, it could actually, you'd think it'd be a good thing, right? Maybe create a lot of physical activity between you two as well. It's definitely going to be more one-on-one activity. So it could be, physical relations, but it also could create a little bit of aggression. Saturn in the seventh house can be pretty heavy, but it is commitment oriented, but it's very serious. I think of, I've mentioned this before, but I think of Saturn in the seventh because one of you asked me for what it was natally, but also for synastry, if you have it together, I feel like it's a very serious energy. So Mars in the seventh is an aggressive energy. So there could be a little bit of battles because the seventh house is also the house of open enemies. So you want to be careful, really cautious. If somebody's Mars is landing in your seventh house or yours is in theirs, how are your Mars aspected natally? How are they aspecting each other? Because it's like if you have Mars opposition Mars, you might not feel it in some aspects, but if it's landing in the seventh house, it might be, a real, because then their Mars is going to be somewhere around your ascendant. It could create real issues of like partnership versus independence, which we talk about a lot with Libra and Aries. I know the way the camera lens is here, it looks like I'm looking over here, but I want to do a video soon. I've got to do a little more research because I watched that. I can't remember her channel name, but her name's Alyssa, and she's got a huge astrology following. She was talking about in a short, the Aries point, 0 degrees Aries, and I've mentioned this to you guys a lot recently, but in my software, it actually has, so I can put like, okay, show me this asteroid in the wheel. I can customize what planets and asteroids are shown to me. And interestingly enough, one of those customized points that I can put in there, it's be like the vertex as a point, is the Libra and Aries points, which are 0 degrees. So there has to be something to it because it's not like, okay, where's 0 degrees Gemini at? Now, honestly, if you're looking at the chart, you can figure out where those points are, but it wants to highlight them. So it is very significant, fundamentally. And I need to research a bit more what that's about. Obviously, it's the ascendant and the descendant. Aries is the beginning. So wherever that is in your chart is going to be significant to you where it's landing. It's sort of like the point of fortune, which is actually a calculation, I believe, of your sun, moon, and ascendant. And even then, I like to think of it as what it's named, the point of fortune. Obviously, oh, that's where you're going to have more money or, right, or luck. But I still need to kind of look into that as well, research it a little more. So Google runs out of information. I really love the Linda Goodman Astrology Forum, not Foreman. And I'm sure a lot of you, if you're watching my videos, have been there before. And it's just kind of people like us really talking about, what the aspects and the overlays mean and our personal experiences with them. So I really love that forum. Kind of makes, I'm like brainstorming with the team, like, could we make a forum? But I don't know. There's a lot going on. So anyways, with that being said, let's move into the 8th house. So somebody's Mars in your 8th house is going to, I find more, because we've talked about this a bit. I think we were talking about it with like the IC, I believe, but is it going to be you who feels impacted more if somebody's Mars is in your 8th house, or are they going to feel it more? And I do feel like if, how does this go? If somebody's Mars, if you're, oh no, that's if somebody's sun. Okay, if somebody's sun is in your 8th house, now I'm like going off on a side note, but if somebody's sun is in your 8th house, that's a very bright light and a very dark and private place. So I find that when somebody's sun lands in somebody's 8th house, that sun person really does want to possess the 8th house person, and the 8th house is more the house of possession. So you would think that the 8th house person would want to possess the sun. I do find this can be true as well. So I'm going to say it's the possessive person is going to be the planetary person in the cases of the 8th house, because the 8th house is a subconscious energy. So yes, we act on subconscious energies, not realizing what we're doing, right, in patterns. But if somebody's planet is in there, they're the ones that are going to be actively doing something, actively behaving like that planet in your 8th house. And you may or may not like that. You may feel a strong bond to them. So say if somebody's sun is in your 8th house, they may be very possessive of you and want to consume you. Like my boyfriend has his best friend's girlfriend has her son in his 8th house, and she just always is calling him and hitting him up because they're all friends. And I'm like, okay, let me call her man and hit him up every day. It's like it gets like annoying after a while. And it's like, it's not even that it's because we have another friend too whose sun is in his 8th house. It's all like the 3rd week of August Leos, and we're all friends. And it's like he never really was too interested. He kind of was. So you would think somebody's sun in your 8th house would create like an instant physical attraction. It actually, for the 8th house person, creates sort of like an indifference. Like they feel a strong bond to that person, and that person is possessive of them. And dealing with the theme of like the sun is identity. So that sun person needs that 8th house person to like fulfill their identity or something, especially in the sign of Leo, which is what we're talking about there. But and this is happening conjunct like Venus and Mars as well. So there's a lot going on there. But um 8th house is like, because there's just some people that I know too that I have 8th house overlays with, and I can't remember off the top of my head who's who. I think I know a few people that have their Mars and Aries in my 8th house. And with one of them who I know better, there was like a mutual attraction. But we did have Mars square Mars, so that made things challenging. And the other one, I, as the 8th house person, was really keen on that Mars person. So, wait, was it Mars? Where's their Mars? No, that's Mars, not in Aries. So, getting a little mixed up here. But I just feel like there's going to be issues of possession, and it's not always going to be romantic or physical, even though I generally, 7th house is partnership, 8th house is intimacy and known secrets. So it might be someone you confide in, or you tell too much to, even then you feel a little uncomfortable because and so definitely this is going to highlight themes of boundaries. Mars in the 8th house overlays. It's going to be somebody who definitely tests your boundaries and sees where they are. And, depending on how you feel about that person, it could be a little overwhelming because remember, this is sort of your private secret place. So I do feel like I see more ascendant and descendant contacts in like real established, solidified marriages and relationships. The 8th house, though, it's almost I won't say it, it's almost like a battle between in the psyche, because that's also very scorpionic energy, between do you like this possessiveness, or is this person too overwhelming? And so Mars, right, rules Scorpio as well, the traditional ruler. It's the traditional ruler of the 8th house. So with Mars overlays in the 8th house, it can be a bit more of an aggressive energy. And not like aggressive, like confrontational, like I would say 7th house would be, right? But just like, I would say more the frustration, because Mars can really highlight frustration as well. Like I think of it, I get annoyed really easily sometimes, or agitated, and I always think it's like the Virgo in my the analytical Virgo, like getting interrupted. But it's really probably the impatient Aries, like, okay, I need to get moving now. I'm getting stalled. So I'm going to say you're going to feel that a little bit here. There's going to be a bit of friction, and it's not always going to lean towards, because the possessive quality of it with the plutonic energy, it's not always going to lean towards like a physical relationship, even though it's a house of intimacy, but it will be someone that you feel very bonded to, like a Mars Pluto conjunction can do. If you do develop an intimate relationship or a physical relationship, it might be like a Mars Pluto conjunction, which would be a very intense physical relationship. So it's really going to depend, on the other aspects, whether a physical or intimate relationship is formed here. But even then, even if it's friendship or family, there are going to be themes of possession and bound really needing to learn boundaries and communicate them so you don't get agitated. 9th house, we have Mars here. That's where he is natally for me. It's just very much somebody's Mars is landing in your 9th house. They might encourage you. You might meet them through school. I think I talked about that with other overlays there, but they might encourage you to want to, it's like you might just kind of know what you know and be a real, just average Joe, as they say. And like you just don't really you know, some people are kind of set in their ways, especially where I'm from, which I'm kind of on a hiatus here right now, you know, and they don't need to know much more and they don't care to know much more. And, you know, like when I'm in LA, it's like everybody's always teaching me something and I'm always learning something. But here it's just very much like people aren't really interested in getting to know much about much. They just kind of know what they know and they kind of, I'm not saying like everyone, there are actually a lot of high level people here that I really vibe with, but the majority are not trying to get too in depth. They don't really want to know much, just kind of a simple place with a simple mindset. So, ninth house, if you're kind of like set in your ways or you kind of think that you kind of know everything you need to know and you don't really like reading or researching, you know, maybe you don't have like heavy Virgo or Scorpio in your chart or you know, other signs as well that can, you know, okay, I drank way too much coffee. Now I'm rambling, but somebody's Mars overlaying into your ninth house could really motivate you to want to learn and get a higher education, want to travel. Like even if you never really had an interest in other cultures, you might really like this might be the person that takes you out and teaches you to eat with chopsticks, you know, if you haven't done that yet. So this is going to be something that's either going to make you want, like a person with their Mars in your ninth house is either going to show you a lot of things, take you to do a lot of activities that are foreign to you, right? Ninth house rules foreign lands, as does the 12th to an extent. So this person may be of a different culture than you if they're like Sun or Mars is landing in your ninth house or vice versa. If you're just landing in theirs, you could have very different cultural backgrounds, but this will be someone like, even if you've always wanted to go to Australia, this would be the person that's like, let's book the trip, you know, let's, yeah, really, you'll go with me? Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't have a passport. Okay, I'll teach you how to do it, you know, or it could just be, this is the person that takes you to the, like, international museum, you know what I mean? So this person is, but it's going to be activities. So it's not just going to be like Mercury where they're like, here, read this book. And you're like, oh, okay, I don't really read books. Or, oh, I've never heard of this book, where it's like a new book. That would be more mercurial, right? Like writing. It's going to be Mars activity. So they're going to take you and show you and not, you know, and I kind of think of Mars as, especially with mine and Gemini, it's like scooting around town, driving around, going, right? Anyways, so 10th house now. Also, the ninth house can have to do with religion. So you could find that this person takes you to, you know, if you were raised Buddhist, they take you to a Catholic church or vice versa. Um, and you might become heavily involved in like, it reminds me of a friend I had. She grew up in the Mormon church and I was never Mormon or anything like that, but I went when I was a kid to like their spaghetti cookouts or whatever. And it's like that friend could have had her Mars in my ninth house or something because she took me to do these activities with that organized religion, which is like ninth house rules, like dogma and or organized religion. But it didn't mean that I was going to sign up. You know, maybe if Jupiter or Saturn was there overlaying or conjunct one of ours, our Mars or whatever, maybe I would have signed up for the church. But anyways, so 10th house is career. So this is a person who Mars on your 10th house, it could be a competitor, honestly, somebody you compete with at work. If you're in a relationship, you, even if whether you have like similar careers or different ones, you might find that you really drive each other to compete. So it's like if you're both real estate agents and you have a Mars overlay in the 10th, and again, this can be for a working relationship, but also especially for romantic, it could be like I'm gonna make $100,000 in commissions this month. No, I am. No, I am. You know, it's like very competitive with Mars there. But also it could be someone who really drives you and pushes you and shows you what you need to do. Mars isn't really a mentor energy, but Capricorn is sort of the peak of status and success, which is the 10th house, is traditional ruler. So with somebody's Mars there, they're really going to drive you up that ladder, or they're going to like compete with you and battle with you, depending how it's aspected. So if you're just like in a romantic relationship and you don't have any career ties, which you might have met at work with Mars overlay there, it might have sparked passion at work, then this is somebody, you know, I also see kind of like I see really good ascendants, like luminaries on the ascendant, like the sun and moon for marriages, because the ascendant is identity and body. So somebody's luminaries there really does something for us. I also see a pretty good echo of that or similar thing on the midheaven. So and I always go back to like, okay, I see his mother, midheaven's father, our we have, you know, the parental roles in relationships as well that are just as significant, kind of like we subconsciously go for people like our parents, and it's usually in some flip-flopped way. It's not always obvious. Like some people, like, yes, her husband looks just like her father, but sometimes it's not physical at all. Their personalities are different, but it's like this one little subtle thing that you went for because it gave you that security of the Capricorn, security of the midheaven. So I do think somebody's Mars on your midheaven could just also um, cause you especially if you start dating young, it could cause you to really support each other and build and create a status in the world that marriage very much can go hand in hand with on the IC. So you definitely, it does heighten, it's like out of a list of 100 that you're going to check off to say, you got to check off at least 25 and the couple might get married, because there's some real strong indicators like a Juno conjunct Jupiter. The couple will probably get married whether they should have or not. But like, and it could even be a fated point, I'm not sure. But something like this, it's like, this is like one, if you check off somebody's Mars on your midheaven or any planet, there's a higher probability you might officialize the relationship at some point, but it's not a guaranteed thing. Now, if you have Mars conjunct Jupiter conjunct Juno on the midheaven, you guys will probably get married, okay? Whether it's a good idea or not depends on whether there are any malefic aspects. All right, so 11th house, we have, this is the house of wish fulfillment. So if somebody's Mars is in your 11th house, you probably have a lot of friends in common, similar social networks. You could also be competitive in friendships. So it could be like this person that hangs out in your crew that you're always kind of like got one eye on. You're like, okay, what are they doing? And it could be a little bit of, my boyfriend now, his Mars is in my 11th, and we've known each other forever, and we have a lot of mutual friends in common, like tons, like a ridiculous amount. Like we came up in the same friend circle, we were a very close knit group, and it's almost like a time capsule when there's like more than me and him. When one of the other friends from that group is around, there's a couple of them still lingering around of that core tight group. It's just like a time capsule. It's like we go back in time to when we were teenagers. So it's a very deep rooted, interconnected friend circle. Anybody around who knows someone, like, it's all connected, and it's insular. It's a bigger ecosystem with this group. So it's like that's my 11th house right there. Somebody, like all Leos, my 11th house is Leo, so their sons are my 11th house. I might have a different friend circle with Leos than I have with like this person with Mars in my 11th, but it's definitely your networks and your friend circles. So it can work well for career too, but it's also wish fulfillment. So it's like somebody, if it's Mars, especially if you're female, whether, especially if their Mars overlay into yours, they're definitely going to be like your type or your ideal, maybe someone that you never thought you could get. And that's something I thought of with this, not to go on and on about us, but the midheaven is like the peak of your life. It's the most public part. And you kind of work to get there, right? And it's also like your first Saturn return when you're 30. Then your sun matures when you're 30. I said something the other day. I want to correct this too, real quick while I'm on it. I said your sun matures when you're 36, but I think it matures at 32, and then Jupiter might mature at 36. So it's something like that. My sun and Jupiter are in Aries, so that's where I got a little mixed up there. But so I feel like 11th house is sort of like what you want in life, like like the big house and the mansion and the cars that you always dreamed of. That's in your 11th house. And when you're younger, right, because we also have the age cycles tied to the zodiac, like Aries is the infant, Taurus is the toddler. I think I accidentally said Taurus was the infant a few weeks ago as well. So I'm always like correcting myself. Gemini is like a small child running around. And it goes through, I think it's about 2 to 3 years per sign. So it takes a certain amount of maturity to get to like the 9th, 10th, and 11th houses. And this is like the peak of it, right? And the 9th would be like getting the education. The 10th would be getting the job in the field that you got educated in, right? And the 11th would be having the salary and the house and the pay that you went to school for in the 9th, right? That you were dreaming of. So it takes a little while to get there in between. So I kind of think of these as their own little quadrant, even though the quadrant will really be 10th, 11th, 12th. But anyways, so, and I could actually tie that together a whole nother way as well, but the collective subconscious is the 12th. So really, you think you're doing the work in the ninth of the education of the conscious mind, but in the ninth is tied to the 12th by the original ruler of Jupiter, which is wisdom and knowledge. But you actually get a lot more wisdom and knowledge from the interconnectedness of the subconscious, which kind of ties into that external connected networks of the 11th Aquarius TV networks and stuff, which also goes back into the 12th film, TV, So, anyways, that could be like a whole nother video. But the 11th house, somebody's Mars is in there, especially if you're female, because Mars is our bad boy type or our type. Like if you have Sun, sextile, or trine Mars going either way as a female with a partner, this is definitely going to be qualities of your type. So for me, Leo men are definitely like my type in a way because their sons are going to be in my 11th house. So any guy with like his Mars or his Venus in Leo is going to be my type. I also have that issue with my Mars in Gemini. Any man with like a Gemini placement would be considered my type in a lot of ways. So that Leo, I told you guys, and nothing against Geminis, they're like one of my favorites, but I prayed, please don't let him have any prominent Gemini placements, and then he came forward and he doesn't. So, anyways, but when you have somebody's Mars in your 11th, especially if you're female, they're going to be your ideal type, and you might not have the confidence for them until later in life, because they're going to be sort of the ideal. So they might be like in your friend circle, and you're like, gosh, he's cute, but it might take you a while to mature into it, depending on your confidence and security level. Like if you have your sun natally in the 11th, then mine is trine, my 7th house sun is trine to the 11th. But 7th house is more one-on-one, 11th is network. So I was always more comfortable in the smaller group, in the one-on-one. Okay, I'm in this group of friends, but I know this person, so I'm with her, but we're here, right? But if I hadn't had my son in the 11th, I might have been much more confident and been able to realize something sooner with somebody with Mars in my 11th, right? So if you're a male and you have Mars overlays in the 11th, I just want to distinguish this. If it's like the female's Mars in your 11th, depending, like if it'd be more ideal if it's her Venus in your 11th, because then she's really going to be your type, especially if her sun is well aspected to that or her sun is there. But because sun conjunct Venus would be, if your Venus is your type as a man, then a woman's sun would be her personality conjunct your Venus. She's going to be very much your type. I told that to my ex-husband. So with his second wife, I've said this before, so probably it's repetitive for some of you that are in here, but we also learn by repetition, so it might help you apply it to your own chart if you hear it more than once. His Venus was trine my sun. His Venus in Sagittarius was trine my sun, and then his second wife, and I figured this out. We were still friends when he was with the second wife, and I was like, oh my gosh, her Venus is or your Venus is conjunct her sun because she was a Sagittarius. So I'm figuring this out like right as they're kind of splitting up. And then he calls me. I'm like, what's going on with you? He's like, oh, I got a new person. Then they got married pretty quick, the third wife. But he had to let me know, like, because of astrology, we were friends. We're not now. Third wife won't let us talk. I respect marriage, so I respect the boundaries. But, and I it's kind of time I let that go and moved on anyway. But we were good friends for a long time because I lived far away. So it was just, we're more like siblings really than anything. But he goes, oh yeah, the third wife has the same birthday as the second, so he did the Venus conjunct Sun thing again, and I'm surprised he remembered. But so if you're a man, it's going to be more ideal if somebody's Venus is in your 11th house, because it's kind of like she's your ideal in your house of ideals and wish fulfillment. She's going to be your dream type, or her sun, but Mars, it might be someone that like is always, and this could be for male or female, somebody's Mars in your 11th house is probably always doing the cool things that you want to do. So like my boyfriend now, his Mars is in my 11th. He always got to go to like all the concerts. He went to like all the Tool concerts. He's telling me when he was 20, he went to this big venue, outdoor venue we have, all by himself on his motorcycle to the Tool concert. And I still lived here then. So I'm like, dude, like, why didn't you hit me up? I would have gone with you, but he got to do like all the cool things in life. He has like all the cool toys, and he's humble like me, where but it's just I don't know. So this is, if you're a male, it might be like that girl that's always like, oh, I wish I could go to Coachella with that group. You know what I mean? Like, that's the girl I want to go with, you know, even if it's not romantic, it's still like you might want to go with that crew, because it's your house of friends as well, right? The 11th house. So it's like, if somebody's Mars is overlaying in your 11th, whether you date or not, you're going to probably have a lot of friends in common, or you're going to want to go do what they're doing and be with their friends or their group or their activities. That's going to be, if it's like, I can go with this crew or that crew, you're probably going to pick the crew where somebody you have a Mars in the 11th house overlay with to go wherever it is. All right. Especially if it's big groups, right? 12th house overlays. This one could be a, man. Okay. So it's kind of like 8th house is intimacy. So we think of that as like, you know, physical relationship, but, and I mention this a lot to my clients, I'm sure I mentioned before, we have the triangle of consummate love in psychology. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but it's right there, but I don't want to mess it up. So in consummate love, we have friendship, which would be like the 11th house, right? And then we have intimacy, which would be like the 8th house. And then we have no, friendship, intimacy, and the physical. Oh, so okay, so that's where I'm going with this. The physical part actually in the consummate love triangle is not the same as intimacy. So a lot of astrologists think the eighth, you know, the 8th house we say is sex, death, and taxes, and but it's more the intimate part. Like the 2nd house is more like sensual. I think of that with the 8th. It's like the psyche. It's like when you're with someone physically, but you're connected in the psyche and the subconscious as well. So it is a very deep place for the 3-letter word of physical intimacy, but the 7th house is more like the commitment and the partnership, like you're mine, I'm yours. Even though there's, so what I'm trying to say here is with the 12th, it's intimacy as well. It's bed pleasures in Vedic astrology. But the physical part is Mars, right? So somebody's Mars overlaying into your 12th is kind of tying this all together, is what I want to say. In the way the 8th house is going to do this too, but the 8th house can be a little uncomfortable because it's like known. So it's like, okay, you're in my house and you're naked and we haven't established anything. That can be like Mars in the 8th, right? But Mars in the 12th is more of like, I'm really drawn to this person and I keep coming back to this person. But I don't know why. Like, and there can be real physical intimacy, but it's almost like you guys can't always verbalize it to each other. So it can be a bit confusing, right? Neptune rules the 12th house. I had this, I've mentioned it before, but like a Venus Mars, somebody with, he had a Venus Mars conjunction overlaid into my 6th. He was overlaying into his 12th or something. My Venus is conjuncted in his 12th. He overlaid in my 6th, so we met at work. But it's like that was more what it was like for him. My Venus in his 12th is like, and then his Mars there. It's like there was a lot of circumstances, like why do we keep coming together? This was a long time ago. But it was just like, you know, the 12th house is the dream realm. So if anybody has planets in your 12th house, you might dream of them. But it's somebody more than likely you're going to keep running into at the store and then maybe dreaming about, but you may or may not have a physical relationship because Mars is physical relationship. So you might have one, but not make any sense of it, depending on, right? If you have other things solidifying the relationship and the aspects, you very well could have a real relationship, marry this person, but it's always going to be very dreamy. And it's bed pleasures in Vedic. So I would say, as far as romantic relationships, just to kind of sum it down, the best place to have Mars, if you really love working out and stuff, then the 1st house is going to be good. But if you're kind of more laid back, chill person, doesn't like to do a whole lot, you're probably not going to like Mars in the 1st. Okay. But I would say 2nd house is going to be good for security. 4th house will be good for the home. I'm going to say, though, my favorites are, well, 5th house is dating. So that could be, I don't remember what I said on part 1 of dating now, but Mars in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 11th, and 12th. So 6 signs. So you got 50% chance that you have a pretty good placement there. But of course, you know, traditionally when it comes to romance, the best houses are the 5th, the 7th, are kind of, and the 11th is, which is, let me just think really quick. Natural chart. What's the 5th? Yeah, it's Leo. It's Leo, Libra. I'm just thinking who rules those naturally. Leo, Libra, Aquarius. 5th, 7th, 11th is just the best for really any overlay, you know, for the most part, depending on how they're aspected and everything. But I do really like the 6th and the 8th and the 12th for this as well. So, and even the 4th and 2nd aren't too bad. But again, go through it if you need all the details. I'm not, obviously, my guy's always like, you're being so redundant. I was like, I gotta explain everything front, forwards, backwards, upside down, and right side up. But I have got to go do Pilates before the kids get here so that I can, you know, have the right like the right balance for the weekend, get in my zen zone. I got a little more cleaning to do. So definitely check out divinetimedatabase.org. You can use my code now. It's rotation 411. If you sign up, you get 10% off with the rotation 411 code. If you want a personal astrology or tarot reading from me, you can go to rotation411.com anytime. And that's all. I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and light. Have a great weekend. If you have any ideas of videos that you want me to do or any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And subscribe as well, you guys. I don't know how to get out of here now because I'm doing it, the orientation flip sideways. All right, bye-bye.